Hi, welcome to my garage in Ohio. Today is a warm and sunny 51 degrees. That seems very warm compared to how, how cold it has actually been this past winter, but it's still a little on the chilly side. So today I want to tell you about how I saved money on things concerning my garage door. First of all, about 3 years ago, I was going out early before I went to my job, which started at noon, to do my other job, which was Instacart at the time. And I tried to open my garage door and it would not open. So I hurriedly went inside and found somebody who would come over and look at my garage and not charge me a fee to just come look at it, because some of them do that. And we have here in Cincinnati, we have a lot of companies who do that sort of thing, and we have regular guys who have their own little companies, etc. But this was, hey, we'll come right now. So I said, great. So the guy comes over and he assesses the situation, and he says, well, obviously your garage door opener isn't working anymore. And I said, yes, the problem is that I can't get into my garage because it's locked. And he said, well, do you have a key to unlock it? And I said, well, no, because when I bought this house, which was about 8 or 9 years ago now, they didn't give me a key, and I never needed to. But so what he did was, I said, well, what do we need to do here? And he said, well, it'll cost you $750 for a new garage door opener and $750 to do the work. I don't know. Anyway, it was a total of $1,500. And I'm like, I said, well, really all I need for you to do is unlock the garage. So he did. It took him a couple of hours. It was actually quite difficult. There is a lock, which this one I had installed, and there was another one just like it or similar to that. But I didn't have the key, so he had to drill that out. It took him a long time, and then once he opens it, then there's a cord inside, so he could just pull on the cord and it unlatched the garage door. But I still had the problem of the alleged motor on the garage door opener was no longer working. He said it was dead. And I said, well, I'll pay you to put in a new lock. And the other $750 was to put in new garage door springs, which he was recommending that I do, even though those had not broken at that time. And I said, well, I don't have the money, so how much would it cost to just replace the lock to make it so I can open the garage? And he said, $200. And I said, okay, well, and actually, I think he worked for a couple of hours and supplied the lock and everything. So that wasn't, in today's world, that wasn't such a bad deal. So I did that. And he said, well, you really ought to have those springs changed because they're going to break. And I said, yeah, I know, but I can't do that today, sorry. So the next 2 years, I opened the garage door, closed it. I mean, it was kind of a hassle not to have the garage door opener, but the only time that was really a problem was if it was raining or something, but it was not a big deal. So fast forward to last year, at least a couple of years after about a couple of years after that guy was here. And I had gotten home and closed the garage door with the garage door, and as the garage door was coming down, it fell. And so what had happened was one of the springs broke. So I called my son And I asked him if he could do something like that. And he said yes, he could, and he volunteered to do that. But he's got a job that takes up a lot of time, and he works really hard, and he only gets not even a whole weekend off. And I just felt badly about asking him to do that. So I started looking around for somebody to replace the springs in the garage door. And I went on Amazon and I looked at what garage door opener mechanisms cost, and it was like, now it's like $200 or $300. Back then it was probably even less. And so I'm like, okay, so I might be able to do that. And but of course, if you call one of these guys come over, they want you to use their whatever it is that they're selling, essentially. And so then I went to Home Depot and I looked at I was thinking about my son maybe fixing it. I had to get springs. So I went on Home Depot. And one of the things when you buy springs is that you're supposed to buy good quality ones, but what are good quality ones? I don't know. But every guy I talked to said, don't buy springs at Home Depot. And indeed, all of the springs at Home Depot, whether they were $90 for a pair or $140 for a pair, they were all 10,000 repetitions. So that means every time you open and close the door, they're saying these springs will last 10,000 repetitions. But then I did find some that were much more expensive, but were 25, 30, 35 repetitions. And I thought, well, that would be better. So I got on the phone and I started calling garage door replacement places. And I saw this one, it was for Mike's Garage Door, and it was in Loveland where I used to live. And so I thought, I wonder if that's him. I wonder if that's who I'm gonna use. But I went ahead and I called 3 other garage door places just to get an idea of what they would charge, and they all said $399, $400, and they all only used the 10,000 repetition springs. And I was like, I don't want those. I want more, right? So the 4th one I called was Mike's, and Mike answered the phone, and nice guy. And I talked to him and I said, well, so tell me what you charge. And he said, well, I charge $250 a spring. And I was like flat, nothing else, just tax, right? And he said, yeah, actually, I think the tax was even included. And so I said, well, what everybody else is charging $400, what makes you different? And he said, well, I have better springs, and they guarantee 30,000 repetitions. And I was like, okay, well, that's what I want. So it was Monday morning, and I said, you can come anytime this week. And he said, no, I can come today. I said, really? He said, yeah. What time do you want me to be there? I said, what time can you be here? And he said, about 1. I said, okay, cool. Yes, great. So I waited, and he didn't show up, but he sent a couple of nice young guys. And so they proceeded to fix my garage door. And in the midst of that, he came, one of the guys, the guy that talked more, and he came and he said, okay, well, your garage door motor works. Do you want me to hook that up? I was like, you're kidding me. He said, no, it works. And he showed me that it was working. And I was like, oh my gosh, did that first guy know that and just say it wasn't working so that he could make more money? I don't know. At $1,500, I would guess probably. Anyway, so what I want to show you is what they also told me. And so I'm going to take you into my messy garage, and I'm going to show you about the red Learn button. Now, I'm sure that there are guys out there who know this. I'm sure that most women don't. And I certainly didn't. So what he told me was, and he actually even had one, and had a little key fob with him, and he was trying to get it to work with my garage door opener, and he couldn't quite do that. But what he told me was that there is this thing called a red learn button, and it is on. Do you see that red button right there? And that is on all or most garage door openers that were made between 1997 and 2005. And so what you do is, he was trying to give me a key fob, but it wouldn't work. But he told me where to go on Amazon to find this type of key fob. So the other thing is that you need, up over the red button, learn button, is you need to know that this wire that comes out of the remote it comes out of the side of the box of the garage door opener. That is an antenna, and that's what picks up the signal for the remotes. So I did indeed go buy key fobs. I bought 3 of them. Red Learn key fobs. And then I also bought Red Learn security things so that I could put those in my car. And so I could put them on the visor or the key fob. Now, as it happens, a couple years ago, after this all happened, I had the people next door, the landlord sold the house that people had been renting, and this new guy moved in, and he's a relatively young guy. I mean, he's like 41, 42 now, but he's just strikes me as being really creepy. And honestly, I've never met anybody like that in my life. Like, he's just creepy. So I don't like him to know what I do when I do it. And I come out here every day, at least twice a day. And now I'm retired, and I feed the squirrels and the birds early in the morning and then in the afternoon. And so I opted to not hook up my garage door opener. I'm home most of the time now. It doesn't really make much difference. And it's loud. So if I had that and I was using that to open and close the garage door, he would hear that. And out of sight, out of mind. I just try to stay out of sight, which is not hard. So that's why I haven't hooked it back up, but I do have all the things to do that. But I thought you would find that interesting, that Red Learn button I did not know about. And so I am going to end this video here. I hope that was interesting to some of you. And I ended up saving, well, if you count what the guy from the first guy wanted to charge me, that's $1,000. I paid $1,000 less than I would have if I'd let him do that. And then now that I have the 30,000 repetition thing, and these springs are guaranteed to last for 5 to 7 years per 10,000 reps. So I have up to 20 more years of springs on the garage door should I keep this house. And actually at the moment I'm thinking eventually in a few years I'm probably going to sell it and move. I'd like to build a house kind of farther out in the country where their neighbors aren't so close. So I don't know if I'll end up doing that or not, or if I can, but that's my plan. So thank you for listening, and God bless, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.